Hello, this is Joshua for Frost Dragon Designs, and today I'm autographing Legend of the Five Rings cards. Now, I know some of you right away are saying, what does this have to do with enamel pins? As that's what almost everything on this channel is about. But long before I was designing enamel pins, I was a freelance illustrator, and one of my favorite properties that I got to do work for was Legend of the Five Rings. Now, Legend of the Five Rings, or L5R, was a card game very similar to Magic the Gathering, only it was set in Rokugan. It was Japanese and samurai themed. I'm gonna carefully set this little robot guy aside. We'll talk about him at the end of the video. And I think Dungeons & Dragons actually did a Rokugan setting at one point as well, before Legend of the Five Rings had its own RPG. Now, it's been about 10 years since I've done any illustrations for L5R, and back then it was owned by AEG, Alderac Entertainment Group. Steve Argyle and Adrian Burton were the art directors, co-art directors at the time, and they had put together a very detailed style guide that I referenced constantly when working on these. It described the different clans, how to illustrate each one, things you were allowed to do, things you were not allowed to do with certain clans. It was very comprehensive, and I think that's why L5R had such an awesomely cohesive look about its artwork, no matter who the artist actually was. So I got an email from an L5R player in Europe, and they very kindly asked that if they sent some of their cards to me that I had illustrated, if I would sign them and send them back. I was deeply humbled and honored by this request, and I happily agreed to do so. You know, each one of these images, as I look at it, I remember, the point in my life where I was when I was doing these illustrations. And I remember spending so many hours on each of these, probably more hours than I should have. And honestly, that's part of why I don't do freelance illustration anymore. It's not because I don't enjoy it. It's mostly because I'm a very slow artist. And so even when these companies paid reasonable per piece rates, if we took the per piece rate that I was paid and we did the dollars per hour, it didn't make a whole lot of sense for me to continue down that path. Having said that, these are still a wonderful and cherished piece of my personal art history. Now let's get signing. First, a quick little test signature. I know my signature looks horrible, but after 40-something years, it is what it is. Now, yes, that is the sketch that was sent along with the cards underneath the cards where I'm signing, but do not worry, I did not get any marker on it. First is Oyori Troops. Next is a detached personality token card. I honestly did not know that they made token cards out of this. This was the illustration where I first learned I didn't like drawing horses. Then there's Ichigo's Guard. I thought this one was really fun, a lot of figures in it. I did my best to make each one unique, which can certainly be a challenge. And then we have another copy of Troops. I think Troops was the first one where I did something a little unexpected, and I was nervous, but they ended up liking it. And then there's Flight of No Mind. This is one of my personal favorites. It has a very cinematic feel to it, and I love the color palette. Then there's Mounted Skirmishers. Another card with horses. I don't like drawing horses. Then there's Cavalry Detachment. This is the card that the token card from earlier is generated by. Oh, that poor Mantis soldier getting trampled by that horse. And then next we have Two Steady Breaths. As a new father at the time, I enjoyed drawing a father and son illustration. Gets me in the feels every time. Then there's Soshuro Sadeo. This one was really fun. This is supposed to be an assassin. They've snuck in. They're poisoning a well. I absolutely love the lighting in this one. Then there's Burning Spirit. This was one of my first times having to illustrate fire, like a lot of fire. I actually had one of my coworkers model their hands for the hands in the foreground of this one. That's right, I said coworker. I had a day job. Still have a day job. Then there's another Mounted Skirmishers. This one not only was challenging because of the horses, but because of the number of people in it. That wasn't something that they told me I needed to do. I just complicated it all on my own. Next is Brotherhood Schism. This was another one that I complicated all on my own by adding extra figures that they didn't ask for. Maybe that's why I was such a slow artist at these. I just kept adding stuff in. Anyway, thanks for the very enjoyable trip down memory lane. And also thank you for the gift. I love this little piece of artwork. I'm going to frame it. I'm going to hang it up in my office space. Original artwork like this holds a very special place in my heart because We each have a limited amount of time on this earth. And anytime someone creates something, whether it's a piece of artwork, a piece of music, a pie, a soup, whatever you're making, you're literally spending part of your life in its creation. And so to be gifted something that someone spent some of their scarcest resource, the resource that cannot be replenished, they spent some of that to create this and gift it to me. That is something special. And I just want you to know how much I appreciate you sending this along with the cards for me to sign. To everyone else, thank you so much for spending some of your time with me today, and we'll get back to pin design videos in the next one. Have a great rest of your day.